A franchise that needs no introduction, Demon Slayer is a series that a majority of people fell in love with. Written by Koyaharu Gatoge, with its beautiful animation, compassionate main character, and an entertaining cast, the series really started to gather a lot of fans once the anime started. Recently, however, there seems to be a shift among the anime community on the overall opinion of Demon Slayer. It seems that now the consensus is that Demon Slayer is not great and that the anime carried the series. And with the announcement of the final arc being the Infinity Castle arc is going to be a trilogy of movies, I thought it would be a good time to potentially address some of these points against the series as a whole. I have reread the series in preparation for this video and will be talking about the final arc, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. One of the reasons why I think that the series started getting a lot of hate is because of the statement by the author that the elemental breathing techniques that our heroes use in the series against the demons are pure aesthetic. So the water that comes off of Tanjiro's sword does not actually appear and instead is something that the author thought was cool to include. I do think that this statement was a bit odd, especially with it already having a supernatural theme to the story, with the Demon Slayers fighting demons. It just comes off as unexpected and quite honestly, a little unnecessary. If you're going to use elements for the breathing techniques in the first place to differentiate the characters, why not just allow them to have different abilities that come off their swords? Since this also is a realm of fiction, it isn't hard to believe that water-breathing swordsmen can gather the moisture from the air and apply it to their techniques, or wind-breathing swordsmen can gather the surrounding air and harness it onto their own swords. I will say though, going through the series again with the idea that the elemental parts are just for aesthetic purposes does not really change the story that much for me. There are some instances where the scene makes more sense with the idea that there is an elemental effect going on in that scenario rather than them not. Like, for example, when Muichiro, the mist-breathing Hashira, is fighting against the upper one demon, Kokushibo, he uses mist-breathing second form, 8-layered mist, which creates a cloud of mist around the area, with the upper one demon commenting on that fact, and Muichiro attempts to use that as a sneak attack. It would make more sense for the mist to be obscuring the demon's vision rather than Muichiro doing some form of sword technique to throw off the demon and try to get the drop on him. There is also the case regarding Muzan. In the final fight of the series, when his body starts to age drastically thanks to the poison from the demon Tamayo, his body starts to show the scars that never left his body from the sun-breathing swordsman Yoruichi. It is specifically stated too that it was burned into Muzan's body, which would make a lot of sense if the swordsman whose breathing technique was the sun, something that is super hot, would leave unhealable burns on his body. It would also make a lot of sense because the sun is the demon's weak point, and the one thing that can kill Muzan. So the writing there is already great, but would add more to the scene if the sun breathing actually did harness the power of the sun or something like that. I think the actual reason in the series is that the swordsman was stated to have a red blade, which the Hashira in that arc would increase the temperature of their blades to turn it red, which would have a stronger effect against the demons. So the fact that his blade was really hot is the reason why Muzan's body was specifically stated to be burned, I guess. There are also minor details that would make more sense with the breathing techniques doing what they say, but these are the ones that I found a little more glaring. With this in mind though, it doesn't take away my enjoyment. The breathing techniques are there for a reason. To my understanding, each breathing technique serves a different purpose. Water breathing is defensive, fire breathing is very physical, lightning focuses on speed, wind focuses on multiple fast attacks, so on and so forth. It is also there to add a variety for each Demon Slayer. No main Demon Slayer shares a breathing technique. Tanjiro does not use water breathing for the most part after he learns the Hinokami Kagura, so Gyu uses it instead. Rengoku uses fire breathing, but he dies, and after that we get Tanjiro who uses his own version of fire predominantly. At this point of the story, he's still learning how to use the Hinokami Kagura. The point is, everyone is very unique. Another reason I think it gets hate is that it is popular and mainstream. I've been around the anime sphere for a while now, and it is like clockwork where people go around saying that any anime is actually bad, but give it a few years after the anime concludes, and there will be people who will post on Twitter and say that Demon Slayer is good, actually, and blow up and cause another round of discourse. We move in a circle. This whole idea does bring into another point, though, and that is Demon Slayer is carried by its animation. The series was beautifully adapted by Ufotable. There's no denying that. And while I agree that the anime is visually stunning, I do not think that it removes any of the elements that the Demon Slayer has and does a disservice to what Gotoge was trying to and achieved in conveying to the audience that propelled Demon Slayer to one of the best-selling manga ever. Ufotable saw the potential of the series and got to adapt it, which is great. And if you don't like the manga but like the anime, that's fine too. Art is, by definition, subjective. And while I do think the series would be less popular if not adapted this way, due to it being spread on social media like wildfire, I definitely don't think the series would be unknown to the masses and still think there would be a strong following. There is one last point I want to bring across, and that is people who say the story is mid. I would actually be inclined to agree with this point. The reason why I think Demon Slayer is successful is because it is simple. I don't think Demon Slayer is trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to anime and manga. I think what Kotoge was trying to do was take the key aspects of the shonen formula, never giving up, cool powers, vibrant casts, great fights, compelling characters, and story beats, and ended up streamlining it. I believe that the series is very simple, and that is not a bad thing. In fact, I think that is why it gained extreme popularity in the first place. The mass amount of people who got into Demon Slayer shows that it appealed to a basic audience, and I use that with quotes, which is a good thing. More exposure to the medium you're trying to produce is always beneficial to your story. This is not to say that the story is bad, in my opinion, quite the opposite actually. I think the idea that it is mid is because it is not trying to present anything new. It is a series about a boy whose family was slaughtered by a demon and needs to go hunt down said demon. This is not the newest concept in the world. That being said, I think that the way that it is presented, the fact that we get access to Tanjiro as a whole through the entire series and get access to what he's thinking, all the while we get different backstories that are interwoven among the Demon Slayer core and how everyone has suffered, and so they all have one common goal in defeating the demons, is a form of camaraderie that we can all get behind. The series' main concept is the biggest thing that I think appeals to a mass audience, and that is the concept of family. From Tanjiro and Nezuko moving forward as the rest of their family were slaughtered, to Rengoku and his family and the consequences of his own death affecting his father and younger brother throughout the series, to Shinobu and Kanai and Kanao all being siblings in one way or another, and that influencing the fight with Dolma, the second upper demon, to Inosuke also joining in on that fight, which he also has his own ties with his own family there, to Uzui and his wives being a family and how he would sacrifice anything to make sure that they're okay, to Sanami and Genya's relationship, to the fact that anyone who has a mark that gets developed is the descendant of Yoruichi, the first breathing swordsman. You get the point. Everyone has some form of tragedy of some kind that falls due to the demons and ends up finding a home within the Demon Slayer core, which I think we can all understand and want a place that we too can call home. Vice versa, you also have the demons who desire a family as well, but are cursed to not have one in the end because they took Muzan's blood. Demon Slayer has a lot of special things about it to simply write it off because of the story is mid. Demon Slayer is a series of cool fights, simple but effective storytelling, and a great cast of characters that people obviously love. I do agree that the series is getting milked for all it's worth, and that it is definitely something that annoys me too. There are other issues that I have with the franchise in general, but I think that the turnaround on the series from anime fans online was a bit jarring, and I hope that this video helped at least someone see that this series is still good. That's it. Okay, bye.